This, the last in this series of programmes celebrating the work of René Cutforth, is one of the very best things he ever did. It was in the One Pair of Eyes series in 1968, and his sad, hard, humorous eyes were turned on the phenomenon of modern Sweden. One of the secrets of good commentary writing is to be a good writer without seeming to be one. And the commentary here is marvellous and marvellously delivered, funny, thoughtful, sharp, and tender. The film is, in one sense, a report on Sweden, but since René Cutforth wrote it, it's also a report on the human condition. It's easy to say they don't make journalists of this calibre anymore, and it's rubbish. Of course they do. But they're different. They don't make them like René Cutforth, and we can be grateful that they once did.
Personal communication with a Swede is not impossible. It's just very difficult. They say it's like a bottle of tomato ketchup. Shake him once, nothing. Shake him twice, nothing. Shake him 3 times, the whole bloody lot.
Perfection, a concept that nags the Swede like a toothache. It's built into the very foundations of his psyche. And when you consider what nature has done for Sweden, you can see why that must be so. Because Sweden is quite extraordinarily uncomplicated. And wherever you go, its simple, stark arrangements of forest and rock, sea and lake are either perfect or remind you of perfection. And so do the simple, stark arrangements of its girls, who seem to be nearer to the original blueprint of girl than other women are. And that apple, if it's from a tree of knowledge, will be knowledge of a very cool and rational kind. The chassis model hasn't changed for 10,000 years. There were long-legged blondes like these running around in Sweden when the last ice age retreated.
In these little log huts with the grass on the roof, boxed in against the winter, the Swedes have lived for the whole of their history. The Vikings lived in huts like these, and right up to 50 years ago, practically every Swede lived in a house like this, isolated, with a forest stretching as it does from this very door, 400 or 500 miles.
Half an hour in the forest is quite long enough to demonstrate why Swedish folk tales abound with such a redoubtable fauna of trolls and gremlins, elves, gnomes and goblins. Tales like this. A poor woodcutter was working in the forest one day when he saw a man sitting on a stone. As he went to speak to him, the man vanished. By and by, the troll reappeared again, leaning on a tree. A life of terror. The forest like a map of the subconscious, an endlessly shifting repetition of dark holes and corners, waiting to be filled with fear. Weird rocks poke through the forest floor from some subterranean nether region. You don't need a psychiatrist to explain why the Swedes rushed out to greet the age of rationality and agnosticism as a savior. out of the forest into the concrete jungle. They wrenched themselves from the one to the other in less than 60 years. They could only do it because they started from scratch, with none of our hideous 19th century mess of slums and archaic industrial institutions to clear away. Driven by what must surely be man's strangest compulsion yet, to emulate the wasp's nest. Of course, it's been much easier for them with only about 8 million Swedes, the population of Greater London, in a country twice the size of ours. These 5 great tower blocks behind me were each designed by a different Swedish architect. And that'll give you some idea of the great flowering of individual talent, the tremendous diversity of outlook which the city planners could call upon in building modern Stockholm. And where's it got them? Is this the world we're all bent on building? Rational, hygienic, convenient, and meaningless, boring and cold? This bus-like arrangement is provided by the municipality. So they're obediently sitting on it, thinking Swedish thoughts. There's no larking about, and they're all going the same way. To the left, of course. There are planners' nightmares, of course, in Britain and America. But here you can see the inevitable future with stark clarity, because it isn't cluttered up with untidy passions, privileges and traditions. It's a sociological paradise, but only for sociological man. And though when that paragon arrives he will doubtless be a Swede, he's not arrived yet. The actual poor human animal is apt to look a bit inappropriate sometimes in all this complicated machinery for living, like a cockroach in a typewriter. To my eye, in the very centre of Stockholm, the planners have built a municipal desert.
My idea of a good life is sitting about being myself. My idea of a good life is that you don't have to bother what other people think of you. All you bother about is what you think of them. And this is a quite different idea. This is the antithesis of the Swedish idea. I don't want to be a part of a social state. I just want to be myself. That's all. That's all, really. Plenty of liberty to be myself is what I require. And less of the neighbours, thank you very much. The less of the neighbours, the better.
You can't escape the obvious parallels between Sweden and Britain. The state's public face is very like ours. But there is a difference. Royalty has come down off its high horse a bit, into the street, where it faces ridicule and sometimes gets it. The household cavalry goes through the motions, but since the Swedes haven't fired a shot in anger since 1812, there's a Ruritanian air about the ceremonial stampings and prancings. And a touch of the guise doesn't help. It can't be long, in my view, before the last drop of meaning evaporates from ceremonies like these. The whole thing is well on its way to Disneyland. Oops, on a charge in the morning. An antiseptic universe with no hint of human frailty. The hospitals, the clinics, the homes for unmarried mothers, they're spotless, superb and freewheeling. Divorce is easy, abortion's easy. Only guilt is your own affair.
Of course, all this criticism of Sweden is simply envy. A Norwegian told me a funny story about Sweden. He said that there came a year when it was fashionable to write books about elephants. So everybody wrote a book about elephants. The Englishman wrote an English book, How to Shoot an Elephant. Very simple and straight. The Frenchman wrote a book called L'amour parmi les éléphants. The German wrote a book called Expressionism with regard to sexual and social attitudes in elephants in a free society. And the Swede wrote a book, How Good Sweden Was to Elephants During the War.
And they've been inflicting good on each other ever since. Entire families are swept up into care in homes like this one.
How many families are there here then?
Yes, we have 8 families here.
And how many on the staff?
We are 8.
One for each family?
Yes.
Well, that's quite a lot, isn't it?
We don't think so.
What sort of families are there?
It is very, very problematic families with disturbed, acting out children.
Yes.
Causes a lot of trouble wherever they are.
I see, they're all problem children, are they, these families?
Yes, yes.
Yes, do you find that everybody likes being brought into care like this? Do they like it, the families?
Yes, they are positive in coming here.
What about the men? Do they like it?
Not so much as their mothers.
If I sit down on this lawn, shall I ever get out of here again?
Do you think this works, this method?
Yes, really.
Has it done something for you?
Yes, a lot for me and a lot for my son.
Yes.
Yes, and now I'm divorced since 2 years, and last year my son was not allowed to go to school, and I got a lot of trouble with him.
Yes.
And when we came to this house, we got a lot of help.
The mother and father is with us all the time.
Yes.
We can discuss just when something happens.
Yeah.
When a boy is acting out very difficult, we can discuss with the mother, what do you do in such these situations when you are alone? Why can't you do in this way?
I can't see why it has to stop there. Why only difficult families? Why not take whole difficult villages into care, or provinces, or come to that, why not turn the entire nation into one great rubber-padded welfare institution for the production of sociological man? Now, this is a highly sociological idea. That is to say, it's supremely wet and right off beam. The authorities put up this blank wall because Swedish sociologists have recently discovered that people like to write curses and obscenities and slanders on blank walls. They invite you to use this one for the job. Sort of civic safety valve. It's aptly called the Klotterplank. Even in Sweden, the people who use it are manifestly slightly off their trolleys. Every morning they whitewash it clean again. Sufficient unto the day are the protests thereof. Whatever can have happened to the Swedes? 1,000 years ago, the Vikings were the scourge of Europe. Have they turned all that violence in on themselves?
You've only got to read the history of what the Vikings did when they got over to England. I mean, for God's sake, they raped everybody in sight, and those they didn't rape, they made what they called a blood eagle of. That's to say, they shoved them down on the floor, ripped up their backs, took their ribs out, and spread them. That was a blood eagle. This is the sort of thing the Vikings were extremely famous for. But, of course, they were heroes. But they were not heroes in the same genre as these modern Swedes are. For God's sake, if you have to live with a welfare state the way the Swedes have got it, you're a much bigger hero than that.
There it is, the future. My future as well as theirs, in cardboard and paste, being mapped out by dedicated men with calipers and slide rules. And it's not going to matter what you and I want.
Det är kanske inte så mycket att säga om, men du kunde väl titta på det och se om du möjligen kan utöka ytan en smula.
Vi vill ju gärna försöka klara gångavstånden.
Ja, det är sant. Men det var väl en sak i det hela, men sen har vi den här...
One more stab of those relentless spectacles, and our fate's sealed for another 20 years. Swedes worked very hard building their slide-rule Jerusalem. They built a whole underground with 23 stations in about the time it's taken us to drive that new bit under Oxford Circus. They succeed because they all pull in the same direction. They haven't had a strike for years and years. But I have a nagging suspicion that they're building my future as well as their own. Everything technical, from door handles to bridges, is pretty well perfect. There's a tremendous pride in technique. The motorways are ahead of, not 20 years behind the problem. But it's all roads and bridges, no destinations.
The problems of human personality, the problems of an ego, which is what the Swedes, it seems to me, are very much lacking in. These are the things which, the value judgments of particular egos are what have made civilization what it is. And in order to become Swedish, in order to become the sort of man who has a properly working state, you have to iron all that out. All you've got to do is to say, it's not objectively proved. What is objectively proved is simply a question of measurements and numbers. We know perfectly well what can be successful. What we don't know is how to be human.
All around the town you can see the discrepancy between the Swede as he is and as he'd like to be. They worship themselves in images of bronze. But is that enough? When they're not working hard or considering their status or worried about their neighbour's critical eye or concerned with neatness and tidiness and general perfection, Swedes are free. They've been quite recently set free from God and sin and poverty for a start, and it seems to me a very good start. But has this freedom left a vacuum? Are the trolls and gremlins creeping back? One thing the Swedes have always worshipped is the sun. Christianity came late and sat lightly on them. The new Sweden is a very old one, really. After the 7 months' winter, the sun is almost enough. If there is a functioning deity in Sweden today, this is it. In June, the whole Swedish nation offers itself in an orgy of sun worship. To be flesh in contact with sunshine is to know fulfillment. And they don't seem at all anxious to look any further. Sweden has achieved, for everybody, a higher material standard of living than the world has ever seen before. And that's why we all come peering in at them, to see if we can catch a glimpse of where we go from here. This seems to be the end product. This is Sweden expressing itself. Naturally, the product is perfect within its own terms of reference. simple and clear and beautiful. It has no loose ends. It tells you nothing whatever about the human race except that certain proportions are pleasing to it. We're off into Stockholm's archipelago for a party.
You have more sun this year than you.
Yes.
This is how the rich live, with a private island, a private landing stage, and some very expensive boats. Most of the Swedish rich are extremely intelligent because the layers of class in the social system nowadays approximate to grades in the world of education. It's a meritocracy, and it's in this top layer that doubts and ulcers lie in wait, where divorces come quickest, and the sociologist's clever answers are not treated altogether as the word of God.
Jag kommer.
These young people should know, if anybody does, whether or not material well-being is enough.
What I want to get at is, you see,
What is going to keep you going? Is it going to be simply a question of sea and sun and boats and athletics and hills and forests and that sort of thing? Is that enough, or do you need something to give some direction to your life?
It reminds me that you asking me if my soul is going to work too.
Well, it's a technical term, but all right.
Yeah. Well, then you're in on the topic of religion.
Not necessarily.
No. Because, of course, there must be something more, but what the hours of contemplation you have for yourself, that might be what gives me the answer of those questions.
Now, would you tell me whether you think it's true that this contemplation, self-contemplation or lonely contemplation, is part of the Swedish character which has made for the fact that, for instance, there's no genuine cafe life or pub life or anything of that kind as far as I can make out in Stockholm.
No.
It all takes place at home.
You touch a topic I really miss in Sweden because, to give an example, if you go down to France, when a man in France is on his way home, he stops at his cafe, he meets his friends, and they discuss the topics of the day, what the government has done, and the last soccer results, and so on. And then they go down after work, mentally go down, and they come home nice and easily and are in a good mood. Yeah. And here we go directly from our work home, and there we have to go down.
We are not used to talk to people, to strangers, and we are too shy and we do not dare to talk to people. If you are going in a bus in Sweden, everybody is silent, there's no talk, no conversation.
So it does seem to me that in a society as highly organised as this one, you can hardly expect, you think over-organised?
Definitely. Parkinson's law is wrong. There are about 20, 30 human beings sitting, all since half a year or something like that, just working with, should a director of a bureau have a carpet and a lamp and guardians and a desk and two sofas, or only one sofa and a little carpet and so on? That's what 20 human beings has been doing since
Let me
months.
answer your question. That's what is left to be done.
No,
No, it doesn't.
It's much more left to be done, but we cannot explain it in a few minutes. And I think we don't really know it just now. We must find it out in a few years or in 10 years, and then we do it.
So really, there isn't anything much more to be done about the Swedish state, would you say?
Not at the moment.
Not at the
I
moment.
think so.
Do you think something may arise? What could possibly arise?
We will see in the future. We'll see.
Anyone in this permissive society can buy contraceptives in the street or pornographic magazines. I'm pulling no long faces over that. I can't understand how a society thinks it has the right to be impermissive.
En gång till, kom nu. Där är det, en gång till, kom nu. Det är bra, utmärkt. En gång till, kom nu. Fort.
The glamour of Swedish permissiveness is now a commercial asset. Foreigners from the sexually frustrated countries cram the Swedish cinemas. You can sell Swedish glamour in books, film magazines and photographs.
Ja.
Tirelessly promoting the image, Sweden's best-known glamour photographer, Carrie Lash.
Utmärkt. Nu, det är bra. 2 gånger, en hit. Good. Vänta.
Carrie, you're not Swedish, are you?
No, I'm not. Well, I'm Swedish now, but I'm born in Prague, Czechoslovakia. En till. Tack. The trouble is that I think in this country the women are far better than the men. Kom nu! Hopp! Kom nu. Långt tillbaka. Just nu.
They're both sexes are very pleased that the other sex is as free as it is.
Yes, I think so. At least the young generation. And I don't say that I belong to the young generation, but I feel with them. And I think they're right. But you just go around, look in town, what's happening. The young people, how they stick together, and they it's not a show. They just do it because they like it.
Do you mean to say this sexual free-for-all is really a very good thing? I mean, it has worked.
I think it's healthy, personally.
It has created no strains, no neurosis, nothing of that kind.
Oh yes, there's a lot of neurosis in Sweden, but I don't know whether this is just because of that. It may be because of the climate. It may be because it's so cold here. We have not enough sun, as you know, and that means that people may be nervous. They may get nervous. I don't know. I don't get nervous because I don't have any sun. If I need sun, I call a girl. Så, utmärkt. Vänd på dig. Och...
Anyone in Stockholm over 15 can visit this cinema. The film is called I Am Curious. Every other country in the world except Denmark has refused to show it uncensored. It's a sort of satirical morality of sex and politics in modern Sweden. The trouble seems to be that the hero and heroine, who are serious actors with national reputations, spend much of the film in their birthday suits, taking their sex routines as seriously as they take their politics. The director was once Ingmar Bergman's personal assistant, Vilgot Sherman. The very explicit sex scenes in these films. Now, it does seem to me, that when sex is on the film, it's simply sex. It cuts right out anything else. People are just watching sex on the film. Now, did you have any filmic reason for making the sex scenes so explicit?
I was in a situation I had made 4 films, and in every time I had to make a love scene with the actors, and I found that the actors and myself and the crew and the camera and the photographer, everybody got stuck. They couldn't use their imagination somehow. They had the bed, and they didn't know how to handle it. And I said to myself, look, everybody has somehow some experience here. Couldn't they use it? No. So I used another approach to it. I said to the actors, how would you behave in this situation? How would you approach this girl? And if you were on this floor making love and suddenly run into a discussion about something, how would you behave? What kind of position would you use?
Wouldn't you say that you're subject to diminishing return on this? That's to say, the next time it's shown, it has less impact and so on.
Yes.
Until rather quickly there's none.
It's not. No, I think both sex and politics are an important part of every person's life. I don't think it ever comes to nothing. I mean, they will. But what you get rid of is certain uproar. When you break a taboo, everybody reacts very heavily, and they don't see what's actually going on. They don't see this boy and this girl, what kind of psychological relationship they have, and so forth. They just see their bodies, as you indicated. But next time they will see more. That is what's happening when you break through a taboo. I like the idea of Sweden as sort of laboratory for the world. It's a rather pretentious idea, though, but and I've made some fun of it in my films. For instance, in one scene in the film, I'm using sex in order to make fun of the question of a monarchy, of having it or abolishing it, while the young couple get the idea that they should make love on the balustrade in front of the royal palace. And in the morning, in the beautiful summer morning of Stockholm, and while we have a choir singing the royal Swedish anthem, and my idea is that when this film is shown abroad in different, where you still have monarchies, it should be changed to, for instance, in England, it should be God Save the Queen instead.
And among the Swedish people, has there been any sort of objection to it?
Oh, it has been a lot of. I mean, what you get a lot of dirt coming out once you show things like this. I got all kinds of anonymous letters and the actors and the actors too. There's still a lot of puritanical things in this country. My God, I know it because I'm brought up and I'm still a Puritan somehow. Involved in fighting the Puritanism, which makes it's complicated.
It's Midsummer Eve, and all over Sweden, which Billy Graham once described as a godless country, they're getting ready for a pagan festival, a fertility rite.
När sommarvinden susar över fälten, när blommor dofta invid källans rand.
Ages ago, the Christian Church made a takeover bid for the goodwill of this festival and won the right to produce it as if it were its own. And that's why a pagan ceremony bred in the Swedish bone after thousands of years is being ushered in by Christian hymns. It's in Dalarna, the peasant province, all lakes and forests, that one of Europe's last genuine fertility rites is most faithfully observed. The mystical tree-worshipping streak in the Swedish character is strong enough to empty Stockholm on Midsummer Night. The city dwellers have poured out of their concrete living machines in their pressed steel motor cars by the thousand, and all the cars have been decked out in a pagan dress of green leaves. Difficult to find a sacrificial virgin in Sweden nowadays. From the lonely farms upriver, where the national costume is not yet just a tourist attraction, the Lutheran church boats foregather for the pagan rite of Midsummer. It's the one occasion in the year when the old Puritan Sweden and the new permissive one meet on the same ground. With typical Swedish earnestness, the green wreaths which will adorn the maypole are brought ashore. It's an odd start to a festival which will end as an orgy. For that which is about to begin, may the Lord make us truly thankful. Now that joyful and spontaneous get-together which the sociologists have so signally failed to achieve in Stockholm is being achieved quite easily in this little lakeside village in the north. And all by that older and much more potent magic, the erection of the wooden maypole. All over Dalarna, these symbolic erections are going up to remind the Swede of the other half of his life, the one he had to give up when he moved into the city, his oneness with nature. Back to the forest and a healing draught of the subconscious. These people, who are now soaking themselves in the old maypole magic, are among the greatest technicians of the modern world. Superb mechanics, masters of precision engineering, electronic wizards, professional doubters, astringent agnostics, rationalists to a man. And, of course, there's an elder on hand to dampen things down with a speech.
Den första är att det är första gången som vi får vara i fred här kring Majstolstorpen när vi reser Majstången.
I think I understand Swedes. Because in a way I'm a natural Swede, I'm one of nature's Swedes. I too feel, or did feel in my youth, that a landscape was better without people in it. There was something deeper in it, you know. I felt that there was a sort of natural perfection which could be achieved and in front of which all the squalid little human mistakes looked terribly bad. Now, I reject this now, not because it's romantic. I still feel very strongly about lakes and forests and mountains, but I don't want to be it. I don't think this is the proper human thing to want. I don't think you ought to try to be a piece of nature. I think you have to be something else. With the ritual over, nature takes its course. Sex is rampant, fights are frequent, and what's normally called the alcohol problem is very much in evidence.
Hej. Tjena mor. Är det jättebra? Då håller vi igång.
Well, I like this. This is a contribution. I feel more at home here than I did bowing from the waist in Stockholm. I don't say it's the whole answer to the plight of modern man, but it's on the right lines. It's certainly the sort of free-for-all we could all do with a bit more of. All that Swedish shyness and formality goes overboard on Midsummer Night. Nobody remembers to say skål with his glass at the third waistcoat button. He just swigs from the bottle.
Well, if I was a Swedish businessman and I had a traffic accident or any infringement of the traffic regulations which had the slightest whiff of alcohol in it, this is where I'd land up. Over here at Bogerson Camp, back to the forest.
Billy Butlin would be proud of Bogerson Camp. It's the jolliest prison I've ever been in, and no social stigma attached to it either. People who've never lifted anything for years except their elbow are altogether reconditioned by 3 months of wood chopping, and boast about it. Swedish prisons are generally more like hotels. They say that when the snow begins to fall, Finns come over the border in droves to commit crimes nicely judged to keep them in a cosy Swedish prison for the winter. On Sunday nights, there's a watery rush hour as the Stockholmers return from their islands and their huts in the forest, endlessly commuting through the summer months between the two poles of their existence. It's a beautiful sight from up here on this rock, but for me it's a sad one, because I think the man in the glass box with his slide rule is going to win. Not only here, but everywhere.
It must seem to the Swede that he's solved all the problems in the universe, but actually what he's done is to abstract the problems which are scientifically solvable and assume that all the other problems don't exist. And this, I'm afraid, is what's going to happen in the whole of Western Europe, and I, for one, am very dead against it.
Skål.